You should really say, I want a promotion. How do I get there? It's not like I demand you promote me. That's not true.
Hey Zesties, welcome to the Gleeful Talkshow, where we share zesty stories to cultivate the happiness inherent within. Last week, Dee and I talked about common stereotypes and assumptions about Filipinos. It was fun, lighthearted, with a tinge of something serious. Since both of us worked as overseas Filipino workers during our recording, we did touch on the same sentiment with regards to how us Filipinos approach the working environment. So in this episode, we talk about why do we downplay and discount our efforts. We are not experts, just passionate about this topic. So hopefully you Zesties, Filipino or not, will be able to learn from this conversation. Before we dive in, I'd like to thank you Zesties for sticking around the show after 3 seasons. There were some bumps here and there, but I did enjoy and learned a lot, and I hope you did too. Please don't forget to subscribe and rate the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram, that's at Gleeful Talkshow, or visit www.gleefultalkshow.com. You may also email us your episode suggestions and feedback to gleefultalkshow@gmail.com. I did start a new podcast as well, so sometimes you'll find me there. Please do check out Nerdy Fans Podcast if you're an anime lover, K-drama addict, or a Netflix binge watcher like me. It's available on Spotify and Anchor.fm. Now back to our conversation with Dee. So speaking of racism, I've worked in Dubai. I've noticed that there was a bias in terms of salary. I don't know if it is racism or not technically, but there was this unwritten rule about if you're a Filipino, then your salary is lower versus the same position of a
Mm-hmm.
Caucasian. You have lower salary, but of course it's not the same for all companies, but it
Mm-hmm.
it has like that notion that in that society the Filipinos, because we work hard and we
Mm-hmm.
accept lower salary than that. Now that's the norm for Filipinos. So, and
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think I get that. I don't think it's just a Filipino thing. Like in Singapore before, I remember there was this guy, he was a Singaporean. He studied to be a chef, I think, but then he decided not to become a chef and he was angry. He was saying it's because Chinese chefs were accepting lower salaries, like Filipinos, right? In that sense, they didn't mind accepting lower salaries. So, of course, the companies are going to hire Chinese people, right? Because they're going to save money,
Uh,
something like that. So I guess it's the same way. It is a race thing, right? Because they know, oh, Chinese people will accept this low salary, Filipinos will accept this low salary. So tendency is they are going to offer you a lower salary. And it's not just in Dubai. I would think that I think even in Hong Kong that's a thing. I'm not sure about Filipinos, but I've read in forums that people would say that white people get higher salaries even compared to the locals, something like that. So I would imagine probably Filipinos have lower salaries than the locals, I would imagine, because a lot of Filipinos come from the Philippines and a lot of people are just desperate to move away from the Philippines, right? And that is why you are just going to accept even the bare minimum. Like I remember there
yeah.
was this Filipino who moved here internally through a global company and then his salary apparently was like a lot lower compared to say someone who was here all along, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
because you just want to move out of the Philippines that you don't sometimes make probably didn't even try to haggle or whatever. Like you felt, oh, this is already big, but actually in reality, it's not. If you consider the brand, which is very astronomical over here, that sort of thing. So maybe there is a truth to that. And it's not just though in the salary, even in position sometimes. And even not abroad, even the Philippines itself. So I had a friend who was working in the Philippines, and then somebody who was higher than her left the company and she felt that she was worthy of that role, you know, of getting promoted to that role. And so she applied for it, but it wasn't given to her. Unlike most Filipinos who are just not gonna care, like, okay, whatever, right? But she really fought for like, why did you not give me the position when you were asking me to kind of step in, right? And you don't want to give it to me because you want to hire someone else. Can you tell me what exactly I lack? And then like I guess the boss kind of tried to skirt around it or whatever. But then somebody else told her that the reality was it's because she was not American, because she was Filipino. But the company is based in the Philippines. So there is
Oh.
a racist thing going on, really. So
Mm.
he's saying because you are not part of the same school or whatever that the other people, because it was a high position, was I guess it was an executive position or something like that. So she was really upset about it, which she had a right to be, right? So in the end, she quit. Like she resigned because she could not take that kind of insult. Because, yeah, why would you do that? If she was capable, if they were actually asking her to do the job, the only reason is because of the color of her skin, it's really wrong.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is a lot of bias against Filipinos in that sense, right?
Yeah, and there's two ways, right? That they have bias because most of the Filipinos would just accept. So it's like
Mm.
a tango,
Yeah, yeah,
two to
yeah.
tango. Like they have these
Exactly.
certain biases because of also most people are doing it. And it's just that it rests on those
Mm.
individual people who step up to prove that Filipinos aren't actually like that. Not all. So,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think
yeah.
so. You have a point because I mean, for example, I remember in Singapore, all of us Filipinos in our former office, we were talking about how come we've all been in this company for a long time, but why is it that the highest position that a Filipino has is only manager, right? Whereas there are others who have been here longer and they're like VPs or whatever. But Filipinos are just the highest is already the manager. And we thought, I think it's because we don't really fight to get promoted. Like we don't really do anything. We just expect that, oh, I'm working hard, I'm breaking my back and all these things. Surely the boss would notice and just reward me for my good work. But that's not the reality, right? In other companies, they expect you to actually ask for it. But Filipinos tend to not do that because we think it's a bit too thick faced to do such a thing.
Yeah.
So like for me, I didn't know that I needed to ask. So for a long time, I wasn't getting promoted and I was thinking, is something wrong with me? How come my ratings are higher than average, but they were not promoting me? And then I was attending this some kind of seminar or something. And they mentioned there that if you want a promotion, you need to ask. And I said, oh, okay. So I need to ask why?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's annoying.
But have
Mm.
you experienced really fighting for it? Because for me, no, I still cannot do it,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
after that incident, because I was feeling really bad about it, because how come I'm not getting promoted? I mean, I'm getting good ratings, right? Like above average ratings. So what else do they need? What do they want? Do I need to get a perfect score or something? And it turns out that you need to ask. So I did ask eventually. And then, yeah, that's when I got promoted. So apparently you need to
Oh,
ask.
wow,
So
that's good.
annoying. But yeah, but
Ask and you shall receive.
yeah, but of course, it doesn't mean that if you ask that they
Yeah.
immediately give it to you. But maybe they just thought all along, like you're happy with whatever it is that you're doing, right? They cannot read people's minds. They're used to people asking. If you don't ask, they assume you don't want it, something like that. So it really
Yeah.
depends on the culture of where you are, or yes, it depends on your boss as well. So that's a tip for people, for Filipinos. If you're listening to this and you're working abroad and you're wondering the same thing that I did, that's because you need to ask. It's very awkward. You don't know how to bring it up. I would suggest you bring it up in the appraisal because I remember before my supervisor was a Filipino. I actually asked her if I want to get promoted, should I write it down or something? And she said no. So see, I got the very wrong advice because it was a Filipino supervisor who said that. She said no, just like hint about it, like you know, that's not it. You should really say, I want a promotion. How do I get there? It's not like I demand you promote me. That's not how you do it. That's not a good thing to say. It sounds like, why are you so demanding? And do you really think you're all that, right? You should
Yeah.
say, I want to get promoted. What do I need to do in order to get promoted? So at least when you say that, then they can give you, more responsibilities or assess you if they think that you're right for that and push you to put your name up for promotion, that sort of thing.
You're very much right. Although there was also like the other side of the coin, right? That good companies or good managers do not even need to ask you. They would be the one like, what do you want to be in the future? And then it's easier for you to say. But maybe it depends on the culture of the
Again,
company.
yes.
But the better companies out there would be the one asking you, like, what do you want to be? There's a succession plan.
Yeah, and it also
Yeah.
really depends on the boss. Maybe the boss is the kind of person who doesn't need to be told, or it also depends. If you really are better than everyone else, then of course they're going to promote you because there is a need, and who else would they promote? But what if you're in a team where everyone is really good, and if you never say anything, then they're just going to assume that you're fine, right? And because promotions, that means they need to increase their budget. So they need to be able to actually justify to their boss as well that, oh, because he wants it. Speaking of this, because I hated appraisals, because I think Filipinos, we are not really proud of ourselves, or maybe it's just me, I don't know. I really hated selling myself, that sort of thing. So if it's appraisal time, oh, it's appraisal time, what the heck am I going to say? And I usually don't say anything much. If you need to tick a score or something, that's it. But I don't really say a lot of things. But apparently that's wrong. So my boss said, you need to be the one who says a lot of things, because that is what people look at rather than what I write as your boss. So if you want something, it's more important that it comes from you. So that's what she said. So I said, oh, okay. Well, I learned from that. Luckily, even before she said that, I already learned from that before. So my appraisals are now like very long. Because I always felt ashamed to do that before, because I felt like
Carrying your own bench or something. There's
yeah,
that
which
idiom, yeah.
yeah, why is that bad in the Philippines? Right? Like people say, oh, he's
Yeah.
so mayabang. He's such a braggart. Why is he like so proud of himself? It's a bad thing in the Philippines to carry your own bench, as you said. But actually, that's gonna be harmful to you foreign companies, because like as you said, I didn't like that. So I was doing really well, but I felt like I didn't want to write that down, because I felt like, oh, you might say like I'm bragging when I don't have a right to brag or whatever. But you need to sell yourself.
So
You
it's
know the
good that
thing.
you mentioned that because I thought initially that it's me who is the problem because sometimes when I do some meetings and then my husband overhears me, then
Mm.
he always said, why are you discounting yourself? You always say
Yeah.
that, oh, I need to work on this, but actually I was working quite hard. And what I tell is a discounted effort of
Yeah.
my effort. And
Yeah.
I thought that it was only me, but maybe it's really just our mentality. And
Yeah.
again, it will equate to non Filipinos
Mm.
who might think that we are only this level of effort
Yeah.
because so it's kind of like a cha-cha or something that okay, I tell this and then this is how people will perceive us now because of how we also discount ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just you. And maybe it also matters that we're both women, because apparently women have really low self-confidence. So we're Filipinos plus we're women. So it's like a double jeopardy. So yes, you're not alone. I have spoken to a lot of Filipino women, and they all feel the same way. We always talk about this, right? Like, oh, do you feel this way? Like, and I realized, like, yeah, we always downplay our accomplishments. We are always afraid to make it seem like we are trying to be someone we're not. So there's a lot of Filipino women who like their boss are saying, why don't you want to apply for promotion? So it's already their boss saying that, and they're like, oh, I don't think I can handle that. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. So it shouldn't be like that. I think that's our issue. Sometimes we discount ourselves. There was this appraisal I had that I decided to pakapala na ng face. Like I'll be thick faced about this and just, brag about myself, because like not necessarily for promotion, but your bonus is also depending on that, right? Like your rating or whatever. And then I thought, oh my God, he's gonna say like, I don't agree with what the hell you're saying. But my boss actually agreed with everything I said. Even if she accidentally did not read that part. I don't know why it did not sync. So she said, you didn't write anything. I said, no, I wrote a lot of things. But she said, okay, never mind. I'll speak first. And then everything she said was the same thing that I said. So see, sometimes you just don't realize that you are actually as good as you think you are, and you're just afraid because
Mm,
being Filipino, being a woman, that sort of thing. So yeah.
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 It's very good that we've talked a lot of these serious topics. And how about you, Zesty? Do you sometimes doubt yourself even if you've put in enough effort or more? How did you overcome it? If you're still struggling with it, you're not alone. It's not a sprint after all, but a marathon. Let's keep the conversation going on our Instagram page, that's at Gleeful Talkshow. This episode is recorded via riverside.fm and edited through this script. If you'd like to check these out and try them yourselves, I have an affiliate link at the episode notes below. Since I love to drink tea, I'm gonna leave you with this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. A woman is like a tea bag. You never know how strong she is until she gets in hot water. See you next week, Zesties.